Well, since the Brexit referendum back in the summer of 2016, the issue has divided and stirred controversy amongst the British public and politicians. RT's Polly Boyko takes a look at how it all started. Here's the moment it began to sink in for the British media.
We can now say the decision taken in 1975 by this country to join the common market has been reversed by this referendum to leave the EU. We are absolutely clear now that there is no way that the Remain side can win.
Or can it? It's 2.5 years since Britain voted to leave the European Union. But the prospect of staying in the club is higher than ever. How did it get to this? It had all been rather straightforward. The country had voted.
This is an historic moment from which there can be no turning back.
And Brussels promised pain.
Some have created the illusion that negotiations can be concluded quickly and painlessly.
The negotiations began and chugged away for a year, until they hit a couple of major stumbling blocks. The thorny issue of the Irish border, as well as future trade, brought out bluster from one side.
Suggested framework for economic cooperation will not work.
And bravado from the other.
Let nobody be in any doubt that, as I've always said, we are preparing for no deal.
Ministers left May's side. And the EU, faced with anti-European movements across the continent, wasn't just going to roll over. So when a deal between London and Brussels was finally struck last month, Jean-Claude Juncker made it clear. It's this or nothing.
The European Union will not change its fundamental position when it comes to these issues.
Back home, Theresa May's deal only united politicians of all stripes against it. Faced with losing the vote by a landslide, Theresa May called it off at the 11th hour, and much to the outrage of politicians, failed to set a new date.
The whole House wanted to debate this. We wanted to vote on it. The people expected us to vote on it, and the government have gone and run away and hidden in the toilets.
This is the ultimate humiliation for the Leader of the House and for this Prime Minister, and how they can look this House in the eye and try to pretend that this is business as usual is quite extraordinary. Our constituents are watching this farce with bewilderment and bemusement, with no idea how this country is being run, and the Leader of the House comes up with no way forward for all of this.
The message from many, including the hard Brexiteers in her own party, is that she can't improve a rotten deal, which, although not exactly in those words, also happens to be the message from Brussels.
I have decided to call a European Council meeting on Thursday. We will not renegotiate the deal, including the backstop, but we are ready to discuss how to facilitate UK ratification. As time is running out, we will also discuss our preparedness for a no-deal scenario.
So instead of surviving a historic parliamentary vote, Theresa May's had to endure a historic humiliation. And by failing to reschedule the date of the vote, she's been accused of running away from democracy. And that's as the UK moves ever closer to the 29th of March, the official date of Britain's departure from the EU. That means that MPs are going to be under even more pressure to approve what perhaps they consider to be a bad deal, just to avoid a disastrous no-deal scenario. That's if Theresa May survives as leader and doesn't get ousted by either her own party or through a vote of no confidence, which incensed opposition parties say they're now planning. That could force a general election. And considering the current state of disarray, a party promising a second referendum to potentially reverse Brexit could win popular support.
An emergency debate is still expected to take place later this Tuesday in the House of Commons, but of course without the vote. We'll be staying across all the Brexit developments as Theresa May heads to Berlin to meet the Dutch and German leaders. Earlier, we spoke to various political analysts about more possible twists and turns ahead.
This is not Brexit that she's proposing, and therefore a good 100 of our own MPs will never vote for it, whatever reassurances she brings back. It's a bit like Chamberlain waving his piece of paper, promising peace in our time. The EU leaders clearly smell blood. They smell blood in the form of a second referendum, which they hope would lead to a reversal of the last referendum result. Whether or not they're right about that, it would still leave millions of people very bitter and angry. It would risk social peace in Britain if the first referendum is somehow annulled.
We don't want to see any borders, certainly not on the island of Ireland and not down the Irish Sea either. The majority here in the north of Ireland voted to remain. It is absolute democratic disgrace to force us to exit the European Union. If we exit on the terms that the Brexiteers or the DUP, Mrs May's allies, wish, then it will mean return to a hard border. It will mean the diminishing and the undermining of the Good Friday Agreement, which of course is the underpins our peace process. It will mean that jobs will be lost, investment will be lost. We will jeopardise the progress that we have made in terms of our peace progress and in terms of reconciliation over 20 years.